Hey Linford, your coach David and I were talking the other day and he mentioned, the Wasp is a paid actor, your coach mentioned that you've been struggling with a hip impingement recently. I have also had at least one hip impingement in the past that was properly diagnosed. I then had a second one which wasn't officially diagnosed but self-diagnosed, and these techniques really helped me out in solving my hip impingement problems. I can't have anti-inflammatories, so it was a real issue trying to get rid of the hip impingement that I was experiencing. But I saw a physiotherapist in Sydney. He was great. He gave me these exercises, and while I'm not officially a licensed physiotherapist or anybody who has those type of qualifications, I just thought I'd put together a video and show you what I did and what helped me, and hopefully if you try them out, they'll help you. It was quite a few years ago at this point. I'm recording this in 2024, and my first one was in 2018, and my second one, assuming that it was what I am 99% certain was a hip impingement, was in 2019, the following year, in the other hip. And yeah, I haven't had any issues since implementing these exercises and these activations. But I would do these before every single run, every single session. It did take a lot of time at the front end doing them, so I'd say probably about a month. But after that initial month period, I did start noticing that there was sorry, this wasp keeps coming through. I did start noticing a difference in how I felt running, my comfort levels running, my strength running, whether I was feeling it or not. And I just hope that they help you as well, and if they don't, well, at least you've tried it and maybe you have some extra activations in your arsenal for future use. So my physio mentioned that I needed to do more core-based activations and glute-based activations, and the main ones that he gave me, which I definitely remember doing a lot, is start lying down, making sure that shoulder, hip and ankle were in a straight line. So just take a moment to double check that you are in fact in a straight line, and you'd make sure that the glute was very much activated and that your pelvis was tilted just a bit forward. If you were standing up, you try and imagine that your pelvis is a bowl of water and you're trying to tilt the front of the bowl of water upwards just a little bit. So just making sure that it's curled in just a little, and engage core, engage glute back here, and you do the leg raises. And I would do 10 to start off with and then 20 by the end of it. And it was really just doing that on both sides. Along with that was I'd do my first 10 and then I'd do another one where the ankle was twisted around and I had my toes pointing downward. I really found this one was great at getting into the glute, and I highly recommend if you had to choose between the two, you'd do this one. But really ideally you do a mix of the two of them. And so yeah, I'd start off with 10 of the straight legged ones like so, and then go into a further 10 of these ones before swapping over to the other side. Sometimes I'd repeat it, sometimes I'd just go straight through. It really depended on my mood that day, and I found that those were really helpful. The next main exercise that I would do was a dead bug exercise. So again, making sure that your hips were tilted and your lower back is pressed into the ground so that you're really engaging like the deep muscles of the core. The dead bugs as a great core activation. It's very easy to let your lower back get lifted. I've just let it get a little bit lifted there. So really ensuring that your pelvis is tilted a little bit back and that you have your lower back to the floor as best as possible. and just making sure that you do opposite arm to opposite leg, because there is an advanced one where you can do same arm, same leg, and if you want to do that, you can, but I started out doing opposite arm to opposite leg. The other thing that I remembered that I'm just going to add into this video now is when I started off doing the dead bugs, I actually just started with my legs only. I'm sorry, I know that this is really chopping and changing and everything, but in the dead bugs exercise, just because it is such a focus on like the deep core muscles, I was struggling at first to like properly get into them. And when you do the dead bugs properly, you know that you're doing them properly, because it's actually really hard to do them at first. Like, I've forgotten the name of the muscles specifically, which I know is terrible, but I was just really good at finding everything by feel. I do believe it's the end of the psoas, but like I've said earlier, I'm not, you know, an official licensed athletic trainer or physiotherapist, so really just use this as much as you'd like to, and then consult a professional about it properly if you feel like you want to follow up on it. But I made sure to dig. I had to get my fingers right into my hip flexors here, make sure that I was engaging my deep core muscles, and you'll know that you've got them because when you lift up your legs like I just did, they're really going to engage and you're going to feel it. But it's kind of like almost a flossing exercise if you're going to do any releases or anything. But it was very good in terms of getting my dead bugs started. Making sure that I was in fact engaging those muscles, because when you do this properly, those hip flexor muscles at the front, the end of your psoas, whichever one it officially is, they won't be engaging when you do the exercise, and it's actually going to be really difficult. If you can feel the muscles flexing under your fingers, you're not engaging your core muscles deep enough. So it's going to take some practice. But making sure that you properly engage them is a surefire way to make sure that you actually engage this abdominal area. Now, more accessory exercises that I used to do in conjunction with these is your normal hip and glute activation on the side, like so. I used to do these. I've forgotten the name right now because of course I would when I'm making a video for you, but these ones, making sure that I was really activating the glute and the core as much as possible, because that really at the end of the day was what made a huge difference for me, especially when it came to the core activations. But with these ones, if you're doing the internal rotation exercise, you just want to make sure that, again, your shoulder, hip, your knees are straight, so just ensure that you are in line, and then ensuring that you're rotating with the glute engaged, the leg up. At first, you shouldn't be able to get like a huge range of motion. I've just been doing it a little bit longer, and just making sure that you are engaged. And then these ones, you have a little bit more rest in them, and just ensuring that you're engaging the glute as you raise, as opposed to picking up with like your knee or your quad or anything else. As is pretty classic for me, I've realized since I've made the video that I did earlier today that I forgot an exercise. So I just wanted to come back and quickly take you through the one that I've just remembered. This one is a glute based activation. You're really aiming to try and fire as much of the glute as possible when you're doing this exercise, and it is a standing one, so it's a really good one to actually start off with if you need just a little bit of motivation or something that'll get you into the flow of doing these activations pre-run or pre-exercise. So what you want to do is hands against the wall at about face height, okay? and I'm not quite at a 90-degree angle, but I'm just like sloped into the wall. And the idea is that I'm going to really push. I'm going to start off with my left leg lifted and my right foot on the ground. I'm really going to push my right foot into the ground as much as possible and try and activate the glute as much as I can in the process of this. But I'm going to lift this, and I'm going to put as much pressure into the ground as I can. And another good one is you can try and imagine that you're trying to twist your right foot into the center of your body line, just because that can help with the activation itself. Now, this is a bit of a hit or miss when you'll have a hip impingement, because obviously there is this motion here. If you're pinching in this area, then like completely gloss over this bit by all means. But later down the line, I really found this amazing as a glute exercise, and I use it just before regular runs now. Like, I'd almost completely forgotten that I first picked this up when I had the tail end of my hip impingement, just because it is really good at getting your glutes firing. So I just hold this for like between 5 and 7, maybe 10 if you really wanted to push it, seconds, and I just swap a couple of times, and yeah, just make sure that I'd really engage the glute. That is the key here. Like, that's what we're trying to activate. So pushing firmly into the ground against the wall, channeling a lot of force through this right foot so that you can really get that glute going. I sound like a broken record here, but I think you're getting my point when I say it. But anyway, I hope that you find those useful. I'd really appreciate any feedback if you have any. If there's anybody else who's watching this that's not Linford, you've also had a hip impingement, please can you share below, if you feel able to, what you did, what helped you, because I'm really interested all the time in adding different things to my repertoire, and I'd appreciate hearing. But thank you very much for watching, and I really hope that you have a speedy recovery.